Ever wondered why the most deceptive people often find themselves in the stickiest situations? Well, let's dive into this perplexing paradox known as the deceiver's dilemma. It's a fascinating phenomenon where those who weave intricate webs of deception often find themselves ensnared in their own traps. Picture this. Once upon a time in a city buzzing with hustle and bustle, there was a con artist named Sly Steve. Now, Steve was no ordinary trickster. He was the creme de la creme of con artists, a master of deception. He could sell ice to an Eskimo and convince you that the sky is green. But, as it turns out, his silver tongue was both his superpower and his Achilles heel. One day, Steve hatched a plan to swindle a wealthy businessman. He created an elaborate scheme involving a fake diamond mine. Sly Steve was so absorbed in his charade, he convinced himself of the mine's authenticity. He invested his own money into the non-existent mine, and just like that, the master deceiver became the deceived. Isn't that a hoot? The irony is as rich as the businessman Steve tried to con. But this isn't just a tale of poetic justice or a comical anecdote, it's a reflection of a larger pattern. The deceiver's dilemma isn't exclusive to Sly Steve. It's a universal phenomenon that affects all those who choose to walk the path of deception. From the crafty con artists to the silver-tongued politicians, the deceiver's dilemma is an all-too-real trap. It's a sticky web that ensnares the deceitful, a paradox that turns the tables on the tricksters. So the next time you hear of a smooth-talking swindler or a cunning trickster, remember the deceiver's dilemma. Remember that those who deceive others often end up in the most precarious situations. Because, as it turns out, the deceiver's web is often stickier than they anticipate. So, you think you've got what it takes to outsmart a deceiver? Well, let's dive into the labyrinth of the tricky traps they often set. Picture a chessboard, where every piece is a potential pitfall. The deceiver is a master of this game, always 2 steps ahead, ready to pounce when you least expect it. Consider the classic bait and switch, a trap as old as time yet still effective. Imagine you're a mouse sniffing out a piece of cheese, only to find it's attached to a spring-loaded trap. In a blink you're caught, and the cheese? Well, that was never really there in the first place. Then there's the trap of misdirection, a favorite of our good friend Loki from Norse mythology. With a wink and a nod, the trickster god could make you believe the sky was green and the grass was blue. You'll find yourself chasing your tail, lost in a maze of lies and half-truths, while Loki laughs from the sidelines. Don't forget the trap of false security. It's like being in a house of mirrors, where every reflection seems safe and familiar, but in reality, you're walking into a wall of glass. The deceiver lulls you into a sense of comfort, only to pull the rug from under your feet. And then there's the most dangerous trap of all, the trap of self-deception. It's like being a moth drawn to a flame, knowing it's dangerous, but unable to resist the allure. The deceiver doesn't even need to lift a finger here. You're your own worst enemy, falling into a trap of your own making. So, when navigating the treacherous terrain of deception, always keep your wits about you. Question everything, trust nothing, and always expect the unexpected. After all, the deceiver is a cunning adversary, a puppet master pulling the strings from the shadows. But remember, the spider is always lurking, ready to strike. Now let's dive into some of the greatest escapes from the deceiver's web. Our first tale of escape is as hilarious as it is ingenious. Picture this, a man named Jack, a notorious trickster, finds himself in a pickle when he tries to deceive a seasoned chess player. Jack, thinking he's the smartest guy in the room, challenges the chess master to a game, claiming to be a world champion himself. Little did he know, the chess master was not just good at chess, but also an expert in reading people. He saw right through Jack's lies and decided to play along. As the game progressed, Jack found himself in a checkmate he didn't see coming. The look on his face was priceless, a perfect blend of shock and disbelief. Next, we have a story that will send shivers down your spine. It involves a woman named Lily, who is targeted by a crafty con artist. The deceiver tried to scare Lily with tales of a haunted mansion she had just inherited. He hoped to buy the mansion at a rock-bottom price. But Lily, a horror movie buff, was not easily scared. She decided to spend a night in the mansion, armed with her courage and a flashlight. The next morning, she emerged unscathed, having debunked the ghost stories. The con artist's horror-struck face when he saw Lily was a sight to behold. Finally, let's not forget the tale of a group of friends who outsmarted a swindler trying to sell them a magic carpet. The friends, having a strong background in physics, decided to put the carpet to the test. Using their knowledge, they were able to prove that the carpet was nothing more than a beautifully woven piece of fabric. The swindler was left speechless, his deception unraveled by the power of science. So it seems even the most cunning deceivers can be outsmarted, or can they? What happens when the deceiver falls into his own trap? This, my friends, is a question that has tickled the fancies of storytellers and audiences alike for centuries. And it never gets old because, let's face it, there's a certain poetic justice in seeing the trickster outwitted by his own cunning. Picture this, an expert con artist, a master of deception, spinning a web of lies so intricate that even a spider would be envious. He's been at this game for years, fooling the unsuspecting with his silver tongue, but one day, he wakes up, and to his utter shock, he discovers he's been living in a house of cards and it's his own breeze that topples it over. Talk about a plot twist. It's like a chef who cooks up a storm, only to find out he's allergic to his own culinary masterpiece. Or imagine a locksmith who prides himself on his unbreakable locks, finding himself locked out of his own home. Irony at its best, wouldn't you say? But let's not be too harsh. After all, it takes a certain level of genius to weave these intricate plots. And there's a bit of a thrill in seeing how they'll untangle themselves from the knots they've tied. It's like watching a cat chase its own tail, amusing and fascinating at the same time. These deceivers, they're like illusionists, creating a spectacle that dazzles the eye, all the while concealing the truth. But when the illusion falls apart, and they're left standing in the spotlight, it's quite a sight to behold. It's the unexpected punchline that has you laughing out loud, even as you shake your head in disbelief. So let's raise a glass to these deceivers, these architects of their own downfalls. Their stories filled with twists and turns keep us on the edge of our seats, reminding us that life, like a well-crafted tale, is full of surprises. And in their case, the surprise is a taste of their own medicine. The taste of their own medicine can be quite bitter, it seems. But there's one question that remains unanswered. What drives a deceiver to weave a web of lies and deceit? Is it the thrill of the chase, the allure of manipulation, or perhaps a more complex hidden motive that lurks in the shadows of their psyche? This is a question that has baffled many, as we attempt to understand what ticks inside the mind of a deceiver. Deception is a complex game. It's a dance of shadows and mirrors, where the deceiver constantly adapts, evolves, and improvises to maintain the illusion. They are like puppet masters, pulling the strings from behind the scenes, creating a world that exists solely on the foundation of their lies. Yet for all their cunning and guile, they are also trapped in the very web they weave. But what happens when the deceiver's web starts to unravel? When the lies that once held their world together begin to crumble, leaving them exposed and vulnerable? Is it at this moment that they truly comprehend the gravity of their deception? Or do they merely adapt and evolve, spinning a new web of lies to replace the old? You see, the deceiver's dilemma is not merely about the act of deception itself. It's about the constant struggle to maintain the illusion, the fear of exposure, and the inevitable downfall. But more than that, it's about the profound loneliness that comes with living a life shrouded in lies. And yet, despite all this, the deceiver's drive remains a mystery, an enigma that continues to baffle us. Why do they choose the path of deception, knowing the potential cost? Is it a conscious choice, or are they simply victims of circumstances driven by forces beyond their control? Could there be a deeper, more profound reason behind the deceiver's actions? A reason that transcends our conventional understanding of right and wrong, truth and deceit? And that, my friends, is the most intriguing mystery of all. But we'll have to explore that another time, won't we?